Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepless Scientist, a quiet place in the cosmos where your thoughts can unwind and knowledge becomes a soft lullaby for the night. Tonight's journey will take us inward, not across galaxies or ancient star clusters, but into the astonishingly tiny universes that live inside you. We'll wander through the hidden cities of your microbiome, the whispering pathways between your gut and your mind, the silent watchtowers of your immune system, and the glowing engines inside every cell that keep you warm, breathing, and alive. But before you settle in and get cozy, I'd love if you could take a moment to like this video and subscribe, only if you truly find these quiet explorations comforting. And when you're ready, leave a comment to let me know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It's always such a joy to see all the places we gather from, each in our own little slice of time. Now feel free to dim the lights, pull a blanket a little closer, or let the soft hum of a fan become your background companion. There's no rush here. If your mind begins to drift, that's perfectly fine. Let it wander like starlight across a dark sky. We'll still be here, quietly unfolding the story, one calm thought at a time. Inside you, countless worlds are already awake. Beneath your skin, in the warmth of your heartbeat, in the rhythm of your breath, entire civilizations are at work. Trillions of living things, cells, microbes, and tiny chemical messengers, each performing a role in a grand orchestra you never need to conduct. The music plays by itself, steady and sure, carrying you through every moment of your life. You might imagine this inner universe as a city that never sleeps. Avenues of blood vessels, towers of bone, bridges of nerves sparkling with light. Some neighborhoods bustle with traffic and noise, your stomach, your lungs, your heart, while others work quietly in the dark, tending to repairs while you rest. You are home to uncountable guests, some loyal, some mischievous, all essential. And together, they create harmony, a delicate balance that hums beneath every breath you take. So as we begin our gentle descent into these invisible realms, remember that nothing here asks for effort. Even in perfect stillness, your inner symphony keeps playing. Every beat, every sigh of air, every tiny spark between your neurons is part of that quiet song. Our quiet exploration now turns toward the first of these hidden worlds, a bustling microscopic metropolis where trillions of residents live, eat, and talk among themselves, the invisible city of your microbiome. Imagine for a moment that your body is a city that never sleeps. Streets of vessels, towers of bone, bridges of nerves lit with flashes of thought. Some neighborhoods are bustling with traffic. Your stomach, your liver, your lungs. Others work more quietly in the dark, like the tiny repair crews in your cells that rebuild the walls while you dream. And though you may feel like a single person, you're also home to uncountable guests. Some are friendly tenants, some are quiet wanderers, and a few are the sort that need firm boundaries. Yet altogether they form something close to harmony. As you listen, you may find a curious sense of comfort in knowing how much is happening without your awareness. Even when you lie perfectly still, life flows through you. Your heartbeat is the metronome, your breath the rhythm, your neurons the gentle flicker of melody. And like all music, it doesn't demand your understanding to be beautiful. You can simply listen and feel it. If you were to shrink down to the scale of a microbe, the view would change completely. You'd see towering red blood cells drifting past like crimson moons, and forests of hair-like cilia waving in unison like underwater grass. You might float through the vast caverns of your lungs, where each bubble of air glistens like a soft lantern, or glide along the walls of your intestine, where billions of microscopic citizens go about their work, breaking down food, forging vitamins, and sending tiny messages through invisible currents. You are, in the most literal way, a planet, alive with weather, motion, and community. Perhaps it feels strange to think of yourself this way. We tend to imagine our bodies as singular and solid, but you are not made of stillness. You are made of movement, a living choreography of trillions of steps, performed by actors so small they will never meet your gaze, and yet, without them, there would be no you. So tonight, as we drift together through these hidden landscapes, we'll travel from the outermost edges of your skin to the mysterious depths of your DNA. We'll listen to the faint hum of mitochondria as they light up each cell, to the patient rhythm of your heart as it carries warmth through the rivers of your veins, and to the murmur of hormones and nerves as they whisper instructions from one organ to another. Along the way, we'll meet some of your tiniest companions, the microbes in your gut, the soldiers of your immune system, and the molecules that shape your thoughts. None of this is meant to keep you awake. In fact, it's perfectly fine if you drift away while listening. Your body will understand the story even if your mind slips into dreams, because this is not a lesson. It's a lullaby about being alive. If we follow the thread a little further, our journey begins not in the brain nor the heart, but in the quiet metropolis that hums deep within your abdomen. It's here, in the twisting corridors of your gut, that life's smallest citizens gather, trillions of them, living, eating, and working in ways that shape your mood, your health, and perhaps even your dreams. The path now carries us toward the first of these hidden worlds, the invisible city you carry within. Imagine, for a moment, that your body is not a single creature, but a kind of living orchestra, one that never stops rehearsing, never takes a bow, and never quite finishes its song. Every system you have, the heart, the lungs, the brain, the skin, plays its part in perfect time, guided by signals so faint and constant that you never notice them. And yet, without them, the music would stop instantly. The miracle is not just that all of this happens, but that it happens without you having to conduct it. If you close your eyes, you might even sense it. The pulse behind your ribs is the drum. The air slipping through your throat is a soft flute. The steady exchange of blood and oxygen, heat and thought, makes a kind of rhythm, not one that could be written down, but one you can feel if you listen closely enough. You are, in a very real way, the stage and the symphony all at once. But what exactly is playing that music? The truth lies far below what your eyes can see. Beneath the smooth skin, past the bone and the organs, there are landscapes invisible to light. Bustling streets where bacteria trade messages, workshops where proteins are folded like origami, rivers where nutrients drift, and sparks of energy that flicker in and out like distant stars. Even the smallest cell in your fingertip is a world of motion, alive with conversations you'll never hear. Your body is an ecosystem of impossible coordination. Trillions of tiny citizens, each with their own job, their own routine, work together in ways so synchronized that it almost seems choreographed. When you breathe in, oxygen molecules tumble into your bloodstream, hitching rides on crimson couriers made of iron. When you eat, enzymes dissolve your meal into thousands of microscopic pieces, each dispatched to where it's needed most. Hormones, those invisible messengers of emotion and energy, drift through the bloodstream like sealed letters, delivered only to the right door. Neurons send quiet bursts of electricity from your brain to your fingertips, carrying thought into motion. And all of it happens right now as you listen. The wonder of it is that this orchestra never needs sleep, even when you do. While your thoughts slow and your eyes grow heavy, deep within, the night shift begins. Cells repair what the day has worn down. Tissues replace their older parts with new ones. Tiny engines inside each cell, called mitochondria, hum softly as they turn oxygen and food into warmth and life. It's a kind of midnight maintenance that never fails. Even the parts of you that seem most still, like your hair, your skin, your bones, are quietly rebuilding themselves. You're never the same person twice. Every night, the world inside you grows a little newer. Think of the cells of your body as instruments in an endless symphony. Some, like the cells of your heart, keep the beat steady and certain. Others, like the neurons in your brain, create delicate harmonies, shaping thought and memory. The cells of your immune system are the vigilant horns and percussion, responding when danger stirs. The skin, stretched like a drum over it all, holds everything together with quiet strength. There is no conductor here, no single authority. The music is written in chemistry, in the movement of molecules, in the rise and fall of temperature, in the invisible dialogue of atoms exchanging their energies. If we could translate that chemistry into sound, it might not be a tune you could hum, but more a long, shimmering chord, always changing, always the same. Energy flows in gentle waves through you, like tides through a bay. The pulse of electrons moving from molecule to molecule is so consistent, so perfect, that it has carried life forward for billions of years without missing a beat. That's the real miracle of being alive. Not the drama of birth or thought or love, but the persistence of balance, the quiet constancy of systems that simply do what they must. And balance is everything. Every breath you take adds oxygen, but not too much. Every beat of your heart brings warmth, but never more than you can bear. Hormones rise and fall with the turning of day and night, like sunlight and moonlight passing over water. When one system grows louder, another softens to keep harmony. When the immune cells surge in defense, the body cools them with calm. When the nerves flare with alertness, the hormones gently dim the lights again. The music never stops. It simply shifts from movement to movement, forever improvising but never chaotic. Scientists give names to these things: metabolism, homeostasis, circadian rhythm, but those are only labels. What matters more is the feeling of it, the sense that inside you is a tide of life always in motion, always aware. Even your stillness is part of the design. A moment of rest allows the quiet work to continue, uninterrupted. So, when you feel the world outside grow noisy or overwhelming, you can take comfort in knowing that within you, peace is always being practiced. Every heartbeat is a reminder that your body knows how to endure. Every breath is proof that the systems that sustain you do not need your instruction. They are older than thought, older than language, older than fear. From here, the story opens into the first of these worlds, a metropolis so dense and complex that it holds more citizens than all the people who have ever lived on Earth. It's the unseen population inside you, living in your gut, on your skin, behind your eyes. An invisible community that protects, nourishes, and even helps you feel. If we drift closer to that world, we'll find that it's not alien at all, but home. The tiny world of the microbiome, your quietest and most faithful companions. If we follow the thread a little further, the path leads us deep into the core of that living city inside you, into the warm corridors of your gut, where life teems in quiet abundance. It's easy to imagine your body as a single organism, but in truth, you are a shared space, a vast apartment complex of life forms so small that 1,000 of them could dance on the head of a pin. They live on your skin, in your mouth, and most of all in your intestines. Together, these countless microscopic citizens form your microbiome, an invisible ecosystem that rivals the Amazon in complexity, yet works for your benefit every hour of every day. Picture it as a city at dusk. The lights come on one by one, each window glowing with its own rhythm. That's what happens when you eat. Fibre, fruit, vegetables, grains. All of it becomes nourishment, not just for you, but for the billions of bacteria in your gut. They stir awake, breaking down food into smaller molecules your body can use, producing vitamins and chemical messengers, keeping the delicate walls of your intestine strong. In return, they ask for very little. A steady supply of food, a calm environment, and maybe the occasional fermented treat. It's a quiet partnership that began long before you were born. These microbes outnumber your own cells by trillions. They have no faces, no voices, yet their influence touches every part of your life. Some are old friends passed down from your mother the moment you entered the world. Others arrived later, through the food you eat, the soil you touch, the people you hug, even the pets who share your space. Every encounter adds new threads to the fabric of your inner ecosystem, shaping it uniquely to you. No two people's microbiomes are alike. It's as personal as a fingerprint and as changeable as the weather. Let's meet a few of the residents. There are the bacteroids, industrious workers who specialize in breaking down the toughest plant fibers, the kind your own body can't digest. Then come the firmicutes, experts at extracting energy from food, sometimes a bit too efficiently. And tucked among them is a shy little bacterium called Akkermansia mucinifera, whose name may sound like a spell from an ancient language, but whose role is delightfully humble. It tidies up your gut lining by feeding on the mucus that coats it, keeping the surface clean and strong. Imagine a maintenance crew that cleans your streets by eating the pavement. Strange, but effective. These tiny residents don't work alone. They talk to each other constantly, exchanging chemical whispers in a kind of molecular language scientists call quorum sensing. Through these whispers, they coordinate who grows, who rests, and who helps digest what. It's the microscopic version of city politics. Alliances forming, rivalries simmering, yet somehow order persists. And though these creatures are unaware of you, everything they do affects your health. When the balance of this inner community shifts, too many of one type, too few of another, you might feel it as bloating, fatigue, or even mood changes. Diversity here is strength. A rich ecosystem, like a rainforest with countless species, weathers storms better than a field of one lonely crop. How do you keep this invisible city thriving? The simplest way is through kindness, especially the edible kind. Foods rich in fibre are a feast for your good bacteria. The fibres they love are called prebiotics, the parts of plants your body can't digest but your microbes can. When you eat them, your inner community celebrates with quiet joy. Fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, miso, or kimchi bring in new citizens, probiotics, reinforcements that strengthen your city's defences and fill empty neighbourhoods. A balanced, colourful diet is the equivalent of sunlight and clean air for these tiny beings. Of course, the opposite is also true. Highly processed foods and too many refined sugars can starve the good bacteria and feed the more troublesome ones. Overusing antibiotics can sweep through the ecosystem like a wildfire, clearing out both villains and heroes alike. Antibiotics save lives, but they are best used with care, like controlled burns to prevent greater fires. Afterward, your city needs time and nourishment to rebuild. What's remarkable is how directly these tiny tenants shape your larger world. They influence digestion, immunity, metabolism, even mood. Scientists have found that certain microbes can encourage your body to release serotonin, the molecule that steadies your emotions, or dopamine, which adds spark and motivation to your day. In their own way, they help you feel. It's not magic, just chemistry turned into feeling. The old phrase gut instinct might be truer than anyone imagined. Still, it's good to remember that these microbes aren't little helpers with capes and loyalty. They're simply doing what evolution taught them to do: survive. It just so happens that their survival supports yours. It's mutual convenience, not devotion. You could say you're roommates who get along because you share a kitchen. As you rest tonight, your microbial city continues its work. Tiny engines hum in the dark, breaking down what you ate, producing nutrients, protecting your inner walls from invaders. While you dream, their world buzzes with quiet purpose, unseen but essential. They don't know you're listening, but they never stop performing their part in your song. If we wander a little deeper into this symphony, we find that these same microscopic residents don't just influence your stomach, they send messages far beyond it. They reach upward toward the brain itself, shaping how you think, how you feel, even how you sleep. The next step of our journey brings us to that mysterious conversation between mind and belly, the gut-brain dialogue, where thought and biology meet in whispers of chemistry. As we drift deeper into the story, the invisible city inside you begins to reveal one of its most astonishing secrets. Down in the folds of your intestines, beneath the quiet hum of digestion, your microbes are doing something that seems almost impossible. They are talking to your brain. Not in words, of course, and not in thoughts, but in the subtle, elegant language of chemistry. Every day, every hour, they send messages that travel along a delicate, shimmering network of nerves and molecules, linking the warm chambers of your belly to the mysterious architecture of your mind. This is the gut-brain axis, a connection so intimate and so constant that it's hard to tell where emotion ends and biology begins. If you picture your brain as a glittering city of light at the top of a mountain, then imagine your gut as a vast valley below, lush, fertile, and full of life. Between them runs a winding road, a single thread called the vagus nerve. The name vagus comes from the old Latin word for wanderer, and that's exactly what it does. It wanders from your brainstem, through your heart and lungs, down into your abdomen, carrying messages in both directions. Yet here's the surprising part. Nearly 90% of the signals travelling on this nerve don't come from your brain at all. They travel upward, from the gut to the mind. Your belly, it turns out, does most of the talking. Inside that valley, your microbes help shape those messages. They produce molecules that act as tiny chemical letters, drifting into your bloodstream and reaching receptors that your brain understands perfectly. One of the most famous of these letters is serotonin, the chemical often called the feel-good molecule. It helps regulate mood, sleep, and even the gentle rhythm of digestion itself. And while most people imagine serotonin being made in the brain, almost all of it, around 90%, is actually produced in the gut, in cells that line the intestinal walls. There, it works hand in hand with your microbes to keep the conversation between body and mind flowing in harmony. But serotonin isn't the only voice in this dialogue. Some bacteria help create dopamine, a molecule that gives you motivation and reward. Others encourage the production of GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, a mouthful of a name for something very simple, your body's natural hush signal, the chemical equivalent of a deep breath. Still others ferment the fibres you eat and release small calming compounds called short-chain fatty acids, which can cross into the bloodstream, ease inflammation, and quietly influence the stress centres in your brain. Together, these molecules act like a chorus, thousands of invisible singers keeping your emotions in tune. Scientists have only begun to trace this mysterious communication. In small experiments, they found that changing the microbial balance in animals can also change their behaviour. Mice raised without microbes often behave nervously, while those given certain bacteria seem more social, more relaxed, even braver. When researchers transferred gut microbes from anxious mice into calm ones, the calm mice began to show signs of unease. It's a strange image. Emotional hand-me-downs pass through microscopic messengers, but it reminds us how deeply our inner ecosystems shape our feelings. Now, it's important to remember that you are not a mouse, and no spoonful of yogurt will cure sadness. The science here is still in its infancy, tender and full of questions. Yet it opens a comforting thought, that caring for your inner world may help soothe the mind above it, that what you feed yourself, food, rest, peace, echoes upward through your body, arriving at the brain as a kind of whisper saying all is well. The connection runs both ways, of course. When stress builds, the brain sends its own signals down the vagus nerve, tightening the stomach, slowing digestion, redirecting blood toward the muscles, preparing the body for imagined danger. It's why fear can feel like a knot in the belly, or why anxiety can make your stomach flutter or twist. The gut and brain are not separate rooms. They are neighbours sharing the same wall. When one shakes, the other feels it. and when stress lingers too long, the balance of microbes can shift. Some thrive on the storm while others retreat, leaving your internal city a little off-key. It's no wonder that people describe emotion with words that belong to the body. Butterflies in the stomach, a sinking feeling, a gut instinct. Long before scientists discovered neurons in the intestine, more than 100 million of them, more than even in the spinal cord, humans already sensed the truth. The gut thinks in its own quiet way. It learns, remembers, and responds, forming what researchers now call the second brain. You feel its voice not in sentences, but in sensations. That calm before sleep, the warmth in your chest when you're content, the flutter before good news. Each is part of that dialogue where chemistry becomes emotion and emotion becomes chemistry again. When harmony reigns between these two worlds, the result is balance. The gentle stability that keeps your mood steady and your digestion calm. When the rhythm falters, when stress or diet or illness throw it off, the conversation can become distorted. Signals grow louder or quieter than they should. But even then, your body knows how to find its way back to equilibrium. A few nights of rest, a walk in the sun, a meal rich in colour and fibre. Each one sends a small apology from the mind to the microbes, a gesture of peace that invites cooperation again. There is a growing curiosity in the scientific world about what some now call psychobiotics, living bacteria designed to support mood and mental clarity. The idea is simple yet profound. Perhaps one day we'll treat anxiety or fatigue not only with medicine for the brain, but with nourishment for the gut. Whether that future arrives or not, the lesson is already clear. The mind and body are not separate kingdoms. They are two instruments in the same piece of music, forever playing in response to one another. So tonight, as you lie in stillness, know that a quiet conversation continues beneath your ribs. Chemical messengers drift upward through the bloodstream. Nerve fibers carry signals as soft as whispers. Somewhere in that dark, warm valley of your body, your tiny companions are hard at work, digesting, balancing, calming. Perhaps as sleep begins to unfold, that harmony sends its own message back to your brain. A gentle, wordless lullaby that says, "Rest now. All is well." Our journey now drifts onward, following the current of this internal river toward another network of silent guardians. These cells that defend and heal you, even as you dream. The trail of clues leads us gently into the quiet army of your immune system. If we follow the quiet trail further, it leads us from the hum of digestion to a new kind of music, one that beats softly beneath your skin, keeping time with your heartbeat. Inside you, a vast army is always awake, even when you sleep. It doesn't march or shout or raise its banners. It simply works, constantly, invisibly, to defend the fragile piece of your body. This is your immune system, a network so intricate and responsive that it can recognize a single intruder among billions of your own cells, and yet so humble that you never feel its triumphs until it fails. You might picture it as a silent night watch, a company of guardians who patrol your internal streets, repairing, cleansing, protecting. There are many kinds of them, each trained for a specific task, and all communicating in an unspoken language of chemistry and pattern. They travel through the bloodstream and the lymphatic channels, pausing at small outposts called lymph nodes, which are scattered throughout your body like quiet command stations. When you catch a cold, and those little nodes swell near your neck or under your jaw, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of activity, a gathering of your microscopic defenders preparing to respond. The first of these defenders are the macrophages, the big eaters. They move slowly through your tissues, scouting for anything that doesn't belong, fragments of bacteria, dead cells, stray debris. When they find something suspicious, they engulf it, dissolve it, and send chemical signals to alert their comrades. Imagine them as janitors with the instincts of detectives, sweeping through the streets and sounding alarms when trouble appears. Then come the neutrophils, smaller, faster, the shock troops of your internal defence. They arrive quickly at the site of injury or infection, flooding the area to neutralise any invaders. They work with such devotion that many of them perish in the act of protecting you. When you see the faint yellow trace of pus from a healing wound, that is their legacy, the remains of a battle already won. It's not pleasant, but it's a quiet proof that your defences did exactly what they were meant to do. Behind them stand the lymphocytes, the strategists and specialists of this microscopic army. There are two main kinds, the B cells and the T cells. The B cells create tiny, Y-shaped molecules called antibodies, invisible homing beacons that attach themselves to intruders, marking them for destruction. Once a B cell has fought a particular virus or bacterium it remembers, the next time that same enemy arrives, it reacts instantly, faster and stronger. It's the body's own form of memory, written not in words or neurons, but in structure. The shape of a molecule that fits perfectly into its opposite. The T cells, meanwhile, play roles that are both managerial and surgical. Some coordinate the entire immune response, directing traffic, ensuring that the right cells arrive at the right time. Others, called cytotoxic T cells, act as precise assassins. When a cell becomes infected or turns rogue, they recognize the signs and move quietly in to end the threat, preserving the greater harmony. It's brutal work, perhaps, but necessary. Like pruning branches to save a tree. All of these players move through a parallel river system called the lymphatic network. It's made of clear fluid, lymph, that carries immune, cells, nutrients and information. As lymph flows through the nodes, immune cells gather, discuss chemical reports, and decide how to respond. It's the ultimate decentralized intelligence, a democracy of cells guided by shared purpose rather than command. And through it all, the spleen, a small dark red organ tucked beneath your ribs, filters blood and removes old or damaged red cells, ensuring that the circulation remains clear and balanced. You could think of it as your body's recycling plant, quietly doing its job without fanfare. Even the most disciplined army can make mistakes. Sometimes your immune system misreads the situation. When it mistakes harmless pollen or food for danger, the result is allergy, a kind of over-enthusiastic defense that creates its own chaos. When it turns its attention inward, confusing your own tissues for invaders, autoimmune diseases can arise. Scientists still search for the reasons why these errors occur, but even they agree on this. Your immune system is so sophisticated, so alert, that it can sometimes see threats that don't exist, simply because it would rather be safe than sorry. The immune system also evolves. The viruses and bacteria it faces change constantly, learning, adapting, trying new disguises. It's an arms race that has been going on for millions of years, with neither side ever quite winning. But you have a powerful advantage: memory. Once your body defeats an infection, it keeps a record of it in special cells that can last decades. This is the secret behind vaccines, a way of teaching your immune system the shape of an enemy before the real battle begins. When the actual invader appears, your defences are already waiting, calm and confident. Perhaps what's most extraordinary is that most of the time, all of this happens without you noticing. Right now, as you lie in bed, immune cells are drifting through your bloodstream, scanning, communicating, cleaning up the small debris of the day. Some are repairing the microtears in your muscles, others are removing damaged cells before they become dangerous. The process is endless and quiet. And while you dream, the night watch never stops. The balance of the immune system depends on rest, nourishment, and calm. Chronic stress, that silent intruder of modern life, releases a hormone called cortisol. In small amounts, cortisol helps to regulate inflammation and keep reactions measured. But when it stays high for too long, it weakens the army, dulls the senses of your defenders and leaves you more vulnerable to illness. This is one reason why peace, laughter, and sleep are such powerful medicines, not in the mystical sense, but in the cellular one. When you are calm, your inner soldiers rest and recharge. It might comfort you to know that most of your immune system, nearly 70%, lives right beside your gut, in a region scientists call the gut-associated lymphoid tissue. There, your friendly microbes help train new immune cells, teaching them the difference between friend and foe. It's the earliest education every cell receives, a lesson in tolerance and wisdom. Your microbiome, in a way, is both the student and the teacher, forever shaping the balance of your defences. So as you settle deeper into the quiet of this night, picture that unseen army at work, steady, vigilant, never cruel, always precise. They keep you whole even as you rest. The body's peace depends on their patience, and their patience depends on your rest. The exchange is perfect. From here, our journey drifts further into the living engine that powers all this ceaseless motion. The tiny furnaces hidden in every cell, burning quietly to keep you alive. The path now carries us toward the ancient powerhouses of your being, the mitochondria. Our quiet exploration now turns to a deeper layer of your inner world, a place where energy itself is made. Every heartbeat, every blink, every thought, even the stillness of sleep, depends on a hidden network of tiny engines scattered through every cell in your body. These engines are called mitochondria, and though they are unimaginably small, they may be the most important companions you'll ever have. Without them, life would stop in less than a second. Picture each cell in your body as a miniature home, warm and busy. The mitochondria are the lights glowing softly in every window, small constant sources of energy that keep the home alive. Inside each one, a quiet storm of chemistry unfolds, taking in oxygen from your breath and the nutrients from your food and turning them into pure usable energy. That energy is stored in a molecule scientists call adenosine triphosphate. We can think of it simply as the spark of life. Your body makes and uses roughly its own weight in these sparks every day. It's as if a hidden fire is constantly burning, gently, cleanly, keeping you alight without smoke or sound. To understand how remarkable these tiny structures are, we have to go back in time, not just centuries or millennia, but billions of years to the dawn of complex life. Long before animals, long before plants, there were only single-celled organisms drifting through ancient oceans. One day, one of those primitive cells swallowed another, smaller one. But instead of digesting it, the two formed a partnership. The smaller cell offered energy, the larger one offered protection. It was the microbial version of an unexpected friendship that changed the world. That small cell eventually became the first mitochondrion, and from that union, all complex life began. Every breath you take is a quiet continuation of that ancient alliance. These powerhouses still carry a trace of their past. Each mitochondrion has its own tiny circle of DNA, different from the long, coiled strands inside the cell's nucleus. It's a reminder that they were once free living beings. And here's another fascinating thread. The mitochondrial DNA you carry came entirely from your mother. It passes only down the maternal line, unchanged for generations, like a spark carried carefully through time. In your cells, that spark still burns, a living connection to ancestors who walked, laughed, and dreamed long before you were born. A single cell can hold hundreds or even thousands of mitochondria, depending on how much energy it needs. Muscle cells are packed with them. They burn more brightly to fuel every motion. The heart, always beating, is especially full of them. Even the neurons in your brain rely on these engines, consuming more than 20% of your body's total energy, though they make up only a small fraction of its weight. Thinking, feeling, remembering, all of it depends on the fire of the mitochondria. You can think of this process as a delicate dance. Oxygen enters the cell and is carried into the mitochondria, where it meets molecules from the food you've eaten, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, all broken down into smaller, simpler forms. Within the mitochondrion, these molecules are passed along a chain of reactions, each one releasing a little burst of energy. It's not the harsh burn of a flame, but the soft glow of embers in a hearth, continuous and controlled. At the end of this sequence, the energy is gathered into those tiny sparks we mentioned, the molecules that your cells can spend like currency wherever energy is needed. Water and carbon dioxide are the only waste products, gently released as you breathe. But mitochondria do more than power your life. They also help decide when a cell's work is done. When a cell is damaged beyond repair, it's the mitochondria that quietly signal for it to end its cycle in a process scientists call programmed cell death. It sounds grim, but it's a form of grace, an act of maintenance that keeps the larger system healthy. Old cells make way for new ones. The city inside you stays clean and balanced. Even endings, it seems, are part of life's rhythm. Like all engines, mitochondria can wear down with time. The constant work of producing energy creates a little wear and tear, tiny sparks that can damage their structure if not repaired. Over the years, this gradual decline contributes to what we call aging. Muscles weaken, memory slows, and recovery takes a bit longer. But even here, the story isn't bleak. Your mitochondria are adaptable. They respond to how you live. Gentle movement, walking, stretching, breathing deeply, encourages them to multiply, to grow stronger. Restful sleep gives them time to recover. Food's rich in natural antioxidants, the colourful pigments of fruits and vegetables, the quiet strength of nuts and seeds, help protect them from damage. Even periods of light fasting, when done carefully, can signal the body to create new mitochondria, refreshing its energy supply. Think of your lifestyle as a conversation with these ancient power plants. Every step, every meal, every hour of rest sends a message. When you nourish them, they flourish, and when they flourish, you feel it as vitality, as focus, as calm. Scientists are even exploring ways to support them directly through what they call mitochondrial medicine, therapies that might one day ease the fatigue of aging or slow diseases of the brain and heart. But even without laboratories or treatments, your everyday life already supports this quiet technology of nature. Moving, sleeping, breathing, it's all fuel for their endless work. As you lie here now, your mitochondria are gently at work, turning the oxygen you just inhaled into warmth that spreads through your chest. They are the reason you feel the comfort of your own body heat, the steady rhythm of life that never fades. Billions of them hum in unison, ancient engines that have never known rest and never once complained. They were with you when you took your first breath, and they will stay until your last, faithful, invisible, and tirelessly kind. If we follow their light a little further, it leads us into the larger world they power, the intricate architecture of the cell itself. The trail of energy becomes a map, guiding us toward the delicate machinery that makes every piece of you possible. If we follow the warmth of those ancient engines a little further, the path widens into entire cities, living metropolises built from the light of energy itself. Each of your 30 to 40 trillion cells is one of these small cities, complete with walls, streets, workers, factories, couriers, and an astonishing sense of order. They don't have plans or leaders. They simply follow a rhythm older than memory, one that began when life first learned how to organize itself into something more than chaos. Imagine shrinking down until you're smaller than a speck of dust, gliding through a bloodstream that stretches like a quiet highway. Before you stands a single human cell. From the outside, it seems simple, a soft bubble floating in liquid, but as you drift closer, the details sharpen. The outer wall, called the membrane, shimmers like a thin sheet of silk. It's not a barrier so much as a wise doorman. Every molecule that enters or leaves must pass through its gates, and every decision, what comes in, what stays out, is made in silence. It's like the bouncer at the door of an elegant ballroom, checking each guest's invitation before allowing them inside. Crossing through that delicate wall, you step into the cell's interior, the cytoplasm, a watery space where all the work of life happens. It's not empty, it's crowded, alive with motion. Particles drift and collide, proteins twist into precise shapes, and enzymes, those quiet catalysts that make reactions possible, spark one process after another. It's as if you're standing in the middle of a busy kitchen where countless chefs are preparing dishes from invisible ingredients. In the center rises the nucleus, a grand library built of spiraled ladders of information, your DNA. Each strand contains chapters of instruction written in a 4-letter alphabet, though you'll never need to read it to appreciate what it does. It is a living archive, whispering the recipes that build everything from your fingernails to your heartbeat. The nucleus is surrounded by a shell of its own, punctuated by tiny doors through which messages constantly pass. Small copies of its words carried out into the wider cell to guide the day's work. You could think of them as scrolls leaving the library to be read in the workshops beyond. Those workshops are the endoplasmic reticulum, long winding hallways lined with workers folding proteins into their proper forms. Some of these corridors are smooth, producing fats and oils that keep membranes flexible. Others are rough, dotted with minuscule factories called ribosomes. Each ribosome is a craftsman, reading instructions from the nucleus and assembling proteins one building block at a time. Imagine 1,000 miniature artisans weaving tapestries at once, the soundless hum of creation filling the air. Next door sits the Golgi apparatus, the cell's post office. Here, the newly crafted proteins are packaged, labelled, and sent to where they are needed. Some to the surface to form part of the cell's wall, others shipped out into the bloodstream as messages or tools. It's a miracle of logistics, an endless sorting of parcels that never go astray. In another corner, the cleanup crews work tirelessly. Lysosomes and peroxisomes, small bubble-like structures, handle recycling and waste disposal. They break down old molecules, detoxify harmful chemicals, and ensure nothing accumulates that might cause trouble. They are, in a sense, the Marie Kondos of the microscopic world, tidying up with devotion, keeping only what sparks joy, which in this case means survival. Threading through all of this is the cytoskeleton, a network of filaments that gives the cell its shape and strength. It's both scaffolding and highway. Tiny motor proteins walk along its strands like couriers, carrying cargo from one side of the cell to the other. Some haul packages to the cell's edge, while others deliver materials to the nucleus. The entire structure is constantly rebuilt, stretched, and reinforced, as dynamic as a city under perpetual renovation. Within this humming metropolis, the mitochondria continue their patient work. You might spot them glowing faintly, like streetlights on a foggy night, feeding power to every corner. Their energy keeps the workshops busy, the couriers moving, the cleanup crews supplied. Nothing here happens alone. Every process depends on another, and every molecule has a place to be. Cells, like cities, have lifespans. Some, like the cells of your skin, live only a few weeks, constantly replaced by fresh, generations rising from below. Others, such as the neurons in your brain, last a lifetime, storing your memories within them. When a cell's time comes to an end, it doesn't collapse in chaos. Instead, it performs a graceful farewell. A series of signals ripple through its body, and it begins to disassemble itself neatly and carefully in a process scientists call programmed death. The cell dies, but in doing so it protects the tissue around it, making space for something new. It's a small, wordless act of generosity, repeated millions of times each day. Even now, as you listen, this renewal continues. In the marrow of your bones, new blood cells are forming. In your gut, old lining cells are quietly slipping away as new ones take their place. In your skin, layers shed invisibly like dust, replaced by younger cells rising from below. Life, at its core, is a process of continuous housekeeping. Every moment you're alive, parts of you are dying and being born again. You're not a static being. You're an ongoing conversation between creation and release. It's humbling to realize that all this happens without a sound, without your awareness. While you read, work, or sleep, these microscopic cities hum along, each one aware in its own chemical way of what needs to be done. There are no kings, no rulers, no meetings, only balance, feedback, and trust. The quiet intelligence of life organizing itself. And perhaps that's the real wonder. Every breath you take fuels a universe of cooperation within you. Each cell is both an individual and part of something greater. They live, work, and rest in harmony, guided by the same laws that move galaxies and tides. As you breathe softly now, picture those inner cities illuminated by the glow of their tiny engines. Picture them repairing, replenishing, rebuilding, a silent celebration of life's persistence. Even in sleep, the work continues. The music of the cells never stops. It simply lowers its volume to match the rhythm of your dreams. If we follow that rhythm upward, it begins to pulse faster, changing from the slow harmony of chemistry to the quick flicker of electricity. The trail leads us gently into another world of quiet communication, the network of nerves that carries every thought, memory, and motion, a living web of light connecting you to yourself. If we follow the rhythm of energy a little further, it begins to quicken, the slow hum of chemistry giving way to the delicate crackle of electricity. Here, inside the quiet darkness of your skull, lies another kind of city altogether, one made not of streets and walls, but of light and motion. This is your nervous system, a living constellation that never stops glowing. It's made of neurons, the tiny trees of thought that reach out with delicate branches, touching one another through invisible sparks. There are around 86 billion of them, and together they weave a network so vast that it holds more connections than all the stars in the Milky Way. Each neuron speaks through small flashes of energy, tiny electric whispers that cross gaps called synapses, creating the language of your mind. A single neuron is shaped like a tree in winter, with a trunk, roots, and hundreds of fine branches. Signals flow from one end to the other, racing down a long fibre called an axon, at speeds that can reach hundreds of miles per hour. If you could listen closely, you might hear a faint crackle, a quick succession of impulses, a spark racing down a wire, disappearing into the next cell, leaving behind the faintest echo of thought. The voltage here is tiny, only a fraction of what lights a flashlight bulb, yet it's enough to carry every sensation, every memory, every heartbeat. The communication between neurons is both physical and chemical. When an electrical signal reaches the end of a neuron, it doesn't jump directly across the tiny gap to the next cell. Instead, it releases a cloud of special molecules, neurotransmitters, that drift across the space and trigger a response in the neighbour waiting on the other side. You can think of it as sending a message in a bottle across a microscopic sea. Once delivered, the recipient cell continues the signal and the chain reaction moves on. These neurotransmitters are the body's emotional vocabulary, each one colouring your inner world in a slightly different shade. Dopamine is the sparkle of curiosity and motivation, the nudge that says, yes, do that again. Serotonin, the calm anchor, steadies your mood and keeps storms at bay. GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, is the molecule of quiet. It lowers the lights in your mind, making the world feel less sharp. And acetylcholine, the whisper of attention, helps you focus and remember, turning fleeting sensations into lasting impressions. All of these molecules are made from simple ingredients: amino acids, oxygen, and the energy from your mitochondria. Yet their combinations give rise to the full spectrum of feeling. Chemistry becomes emotion. Electricity becomes thought. The brain's appetite for energy is extraordinary. Though it weighs only about 3 pounds, it consumes roughly 1/5 of everything you eat. Its constant activity generates the same amount of power as a small nightlight, just 20 watts or so, less than what it takes to keep a bulb glowing softly in the dark, and yet enough to dream, to remember, to love. Imagine that. Every symphony ever written, every story told, every quiet moment of wonder, all powered by something smaller than the lamp beside your bed. Inside this glowing forest of neurons, signals flow in both directions at once, building loops of activity that shape who you are. When you learn something new, how to tie a knot, how to speak a word, how to remember a face, small networks of neurons strengthen their bonds. It's as if new paths are paved through the wilderness of your brain, making the journey easier each time you repeat it. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to reshape itself. You might call it memory finding its footing, experience leaving footprints in the sand. The speed of these signals is breathtaking, but the design is elegant and patient. Your nervous system stretches from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, a shimmering web of fibers that carries instructions, sensations and warnings. Touch a warm cup, and within a heartbeat, signals fly up through your spinal cord, delivering the message before you even think about it. Move your hand away, and the same current flows in reverse, like a wave retreating from shore. The precision is so fine, the timing so perfect that you rarely notice it. You simply act, and the body obeys, as if by instinct. There's another layer to this system, the part you don't consciously control. The autonomic nervous system runs beneath awareness, quietly managing the rhythm of your heartbeat, your breath, your digestion. It has 2 halves, each balancing the other. The sympathetic branch prepares you for action, speeding your pulse, sharpening your senses, flooding your muscles with energy. It's what people call the fight or flight response. The parasympathetic branch is its gentle twin, slowing your heart, deepening your breath, guiding you back toward calm. Together, they are like sunrise and sunset, partners in a never-ending cycle of readiness and rest. When you fall asleep, the parasympathetic system takes the lead, dimming the body's lights so the repair crews can begin their work. Your heartbeat softens, your breathing deepens, the storm of thoughts quiets into distant lightning, still there, but gentler now. Inside your brain, the electrical storms of the day begin to settle into patterns. Neurons replay fragments of experience, strengthening some connections, letting others fade. This is how memories form, not as static pictures, but as pulses replayed until they find harmony. It's as if your brain is rehearsing the day's melody one last time before placing it on the shelf. Even in sleep, the currents continue to flow. Your neurons never stop communicating, even when the conscious mind drifts away. The dreams that rise from this activity are like faint auroras, ghostly lights flickering through the dark forest of your mind. And though you may not always remember them, they serve their purpose, restoring balance, resetting emotion, keeping the great network healthy. If you could peer into this landscape as you drift off tonight, you would see rivers of electricity winding through canyons of tissue, tiny bursts of light appearing and vanishing across the surface of your brain. Each spark carries information, a signal, a feeling, a promise of what comes next. In the silence between these sparks lies the space where rest begins. As we leave this shimmering web of thought behind, the current slows, flowing outward toward the edges of your body, to the skin, your boundary with the world, and to the invisible messengers that link every organ into one living whole. The trail of electricity softens into warmth, guiding us gently to the next layer of connection. The body's living shield, and the whispers of hormones that keep its rhythm aligned with the stars. As the sparks of thought fade into softer rhythms, the story of your body turns towards stillness. But this is not the stillness of emptiness. It is the stillness of repair, of quiet orchestration. Your nervous system, which has spent the day guiding every reaction, movement and thought, now changes its tempo. The quick, bright pace of activity slows, and a more tender rhythm begins to play. This shift, from alertness to rest, is not simply a feeling of tiredness. It is a full-body transformation led by the deepest instincts of life itself. The two halves of your autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, are like twin musicians sharing the same instrument. During the day, the sympathetic half takes the lead, filling the air with a quick tempo of action. Your heart beats faster, your breath becomes short and purposeful, your senses sharpen to meet the world's demands. But as the light fades and your body prepares for rest, the parasympathetic half takes its turn, drawing the bow slowly across the strings. Heartbeat and breath soften, muscles release their grip, thoughts begin to loosen like knots untied. It's the biological equivalent of a dimming orchestra, every note easing into a lullaby. This is the art of balance, what scientists call homeostasis, the ability of your body to find equilibrium between motion and rest. You don't have to command it. It happens automatically, as faithfully as the tide follows the moon. The parasympathetic system sends its quiet messages through a network of nerves, particularly the vagus nerve, the same wanderer that carried whispers from your gut to your brain earlier in our journey. Now it carries a message of peace. It tells the heart, you can slow down. It tells the lungs, take your time. It tells the stomach, you may rest and repair. In this calm state, the body performs some of its most extraordinary acts of self-preservation. Blood pressure eases, stress hormones fall, immune cells, those tireless night watchmen, receive their orders to sweep through the tissues, mending what the day has worn down. The mind, freed from constant alertness, begins to sort and file the experiences of waking life. The result is not just sleep, it is renewal. Inside your brain, this renewal is both physical and emotional. As neurons replay fragments of the day, they reinforce certain pathways, strengthening the connections that matter most. This is how learning becomes memory, how fleeting experience becomes part of who you are. Think of it as your mind, rehearsing itself, a theatre of the day's moments replayed behind closed eyes. Meanwhile, a specialised cleansing network, the glymphatic system, opens up. It's like a nighttime cleaning crew that flushes out the microscopic byproducts of thought, the gentle debris left behind by billions of firing neurons. Bathed in clear fluid, the brain quite literally washes itself while you dream. If you could see it happening, you might imagine a tide rolling through a quiet city after dark, sweeping away dust, leaving the streets gleaming by morning. This is the nightly miracle of restoration. It's one of the reasons deep sleep feels so good, not because you're escaping the world, but because your inner world is being refreshed. Even your dreams serve a purpose. They weave emotional threads into patterns, testing memories, softening fears, blending the strange with the familiar. Sometimes they make no sense, but even nonsense has a role. Dreams allow your mind to explore safely, to practice problem solving, to give emotion a space to stretch its limbs. You could say they are the mind's version of stretching before dawn. Neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to reshape itself, depends on these nightly intervals of peace. Every new skill you learn, every insight, every moment of reflection requires sleep to solidify it. Without rest, those connections weaken. It's like trying to write a message in sand while the waves are still coming in. But when the tide goes out, when rest takes over, the writing stays. This is also when the body's chemistry changes tone. Hormones that keep you alert during the day, such as cortisol, subside, while those that promote calm, like melatonin, rise gently with the darkness. Melatonin is sometimes called the moonlight of the body. It doesn't force you to sleep. It merely signals that the world is dimming, that your cells can lower their voices. Under its influence, temperature drops slightly, muscles relax, and the inner symphony slows to a peaceful adagio. All the while, your heart keeps playing its steady rhythm. With each beat, it sends fresh blood through the brain, delivering oxygen and carrying away waste. Your breathing, slower and deeper now, keeps time with the heart, two instruments performing a duet without end. It is one of nature's quietest miracles, a self-sustaining harmony between breath and pulse that continues, no matter what dreams you find yourself in. When people talk about recharging, they often think of batteries, something mechanical being filled up again. But your body doesn't work that way. You're not a machine being refueled. You're a living pattern finding its balance again. During rest, cells repair their walls, DNA repairs its code, mitochondria replenish their energy stores, and tissues rebuild their strength. It's a symphony of renewal, soft enough to let you drift, but vital enough to sustain every moment of your waking life. It's humbling to know that even in your deepest sleep, you're still awake in countless small ways. Electrical currents ripple gently through your brain. Hormones circulate. Immune cells patrol. The body never stops. It only shifts its attention inward, away from the noise of the outside world toward the care of itself. So, if tonight you find yourself restless, wondering whether your body remembers how to rest, you can take comfort in this. It always does. Every cell in you has been practicing this rhythm since the dawn of a life. You can let go. The universe inside knows exactly what to do. As we drift onward, the body's story carries us to the edge of that inner universe, the soft boundary that holds you together and keeps you connected to the world. The trail of breath and heartbeat now leads to the surface, where your skin, your living shield, waits, quietly sensing, protecting, and remembering every touch and trace of light. From the whispering nerves within, our journey drifts outward, toward the soft, protective edge of who you are. The skin, your largest organ, is both a shield and a storyteller. It keeps you whole, holding in warmth and water, but it also listens to air, to touch, to the subtle pressures of the world. It's the border between the self and everything else, a living frontier that breathes, feels, and renews itself quietly, month after month, without any applause. You might imagine it as a fortress, but it's gentler than that. The skin is more like a vast field of living fabric, 3 layers deep. The topmost layer, the epidermis, is your outer wall, the part you see, the part that meets the world. It's made of tiny cells stacked like shingles, packed tightly together to keep the inner world safe. These cells live fast and die young. They're born deep within, travel upward, and finally dry into a thin protective coat before flaking away like invisible dust. Every few weeks, the entire surface of your body quietly replaces itself. You're always shedding the old and wearing the new, like a planet forever resurfacing. Beneath that lies the dermis, the middle layer, where the real craftsmanship of protection happens. This is the layer that gives your skin its strength and its bounce. Inside it weave strands of collagen and elastin. Think of them as the ropes and springs that keep everything firm yet flexible. Tiny capillaries flow here, carrying oxygen and nutrients to feed the surface, while sweat glands act as tiny cooling vents, balancing your inner temperature with the weather outside. When it's hot, they open like fountains. When it's cold, they rest. The dermis is also where the sense of touch lives. Millions of nerve endings rest here, tuned to pressure, temperature, texture. They are the reason you feel the silkiness of fabric, the warmth of sunlight, or the gentle weight of a hand resting on yours. Each touch is a message sent instantly through your nervous system, a reminder that you are part of the world and that the world in turn is touching you back. Beneath it all lies the hypodermis, the foundation. It's a soft, insulating layer of fat and connective tissue, cushioning everything above it. It keeps you warm, stores energy, and anchors the skin to the muscles and bones below. It's easy to forget about this layer, but without it, every movement would feel fragile, every fall would bruise. It's the quiet padding of existence. Together, these three layers form a living armour, but unlike metal or stone, this armour feels. It blushes with embarrassment, pales with fear, prickles with goosebumps when you're cold or moved by emotion. Those goosebumps are a leftover echo from ancient times, when your ancestors' body hair stood on end to trap heat or make them appear larger in danger. Now, they're mostly symbolic, small bumps that remind you how closely your body's history still lingers under your skin. On its surface, your skin hosts another world, your outer microbiome. Millions of microscopic residents, bacteria, yeasts, even tiny mites, live peacefully on every inch of you. To the naked eye, you look smooth and spotless, but under the microscope it's a thriving landscape. Each patch of skin, your elbow, your cheek, your palm, has its own community adapted to its climate. Dry areas host desert dwellers. Oily areas teem with species that love moisture. It's like a continent made of you, populated by guests who, most of the time, protect rather than harm. These microorganisms form your first line of defense. They compete with harmful invaders, produce protective oils, and even help train your immune cells to recognize friend from foe. It's an elegant arrangement. They get shelter and nutrients, you get security and balance. Wash too harshly, scrub too deep, and you can disrupt this fragile piece. But care for your skin gently, and the alliance thrives. A little warmth, a little moisture, and a little time. That's all it needs. Your skin also performs a quiet miracle each day. It creates vitamin D when touched by sunlight. Ultraviolet rays, though invisible, awaken a chemical in your skin that becomes the vitamin once it travels through your liver and kidneys. This small reaction helps strengthen your bones, support your immune system, and regulate mood. But as with all things, balance matters. A little sunlight is life-giving. Too much can be destructive. Nature always prefers moderation, the golden middle, never the extremes. If the skin is a shield, it's also a canvas. Every scar, every line, every freckle is part of your personal topography, a map of time, touch, and healing. Some marks fade quietly, others stay, becoming reminders of the body's resilience. When you run your fingers over an old scar, you're not just touching healed tissue, you're touching memory. The story of a wound that closed, a reminder that even damage can lead to strength. The skin remembers what you've lived through, long after the mind forgets. There's another kind of memory in touch itself. When someone brushes your hand, when an embrace lingers, the nerves in your skin trigger the release of oxytocin, often called the molecule of trust. It softens your heartbeat, lowers stress, and deepens your sense of connection. Touch is medicine, ancient, free, and powerful. A hug, a pet curled against you, a gentle hand on your shoulder. All of them speak the same quiet language to the body. You're safe. You're home. Perhaps that's what makes skin so special. It's both boundary and bridge. It separates you from the world, but also connects you to it. Through it, you feel warmth, coolness, comfort, pain, and love. It teaches empathy through sensation and resilience through healing. It's the first thing the world touches when you're born, and often the last thing another hand touches when you leave. Even now, as you rest, your skin is busy. New cells are rising from below. Old ones are slipping away like faint snow. Tiny sensors are adjusting to the air around you, ensuring your temperature stays steady. It's all happening quietly, automatically, beautifully. As we drift onward, the story turns inward again, from the surface of the skin to the inner web of communication that runs through every organ. There, in the space where messages travel not by nerves but by invisible waves of chemistry, lies another network altogether, the whispering system of hormones, the messengers written in invisible ink that tell your body when to wake, when to rest, and when to love. From the surface of your skin, our path now turns inward again, into the quiet channels where the body speaks to itself without words. Here the language is made of chemistry, carried not by nerves but by invisible couriers flowing through the bloodstream. These are the hormones, the body's secret letters, written in invisible ink. They are what keep your organs in conversation, what synchronize your sleep and your hunger, your moods and your growth. They are the reason you feel alert at dawn, calm at dusk, and comforted by the simple act of touch. You can think of the endocrine system as your body's postal service. Each gland is a post office, each hormone a letter or parcel sent with perfect timing. The hypothalamus, deep in the brain, is the master scheduler, the clock that decides when to send which messages. Just beneath it lies the pituitary, a small pea-sized gland often called the conductor of the orchestra. It doesn't make all the music itself, but it cues every instrument to play in harmony. When it releases its chemical signals, they travel through the bloodstream to distant organs, telling them when to act, when to rest, when to grow. One of the pituitary's favourite correspondents is the thyroid, a butterfly-shaped gland sitting quietly in your neck. The thyroid sets the tempo for your metabolism, the grand name for how your body turns food into energy. When the thyroid sends its hormones out, every cell in your body listens. Your heart beats faster or slower, your temperature rises or cools, your mind sharpens or softens, all according to its gentle rhythm. It's like the thermostat of a life, endlessly adjusting to keep you steady. Farther down, nestled above your kidneys, rest the adrenal glands, the small guardians of energy and alertness. When danger looms or excitement stirs, they release adrenaline, that swift, bright messenger that quickens your heart and sharpens your senses. It's the feeling of a deep breath before a leap, the sudden clarity before a challenge. But alongside that flash comes another slower signal, cortisol, the body's endurance messenger. It helps you stay steady through long stretches of stress or effort. Too little of it, and you'd collapse under pressure. Too much, and the same messenger that once protected you begins to wear you down. That's why calm is so important. The body needs balance, not just in heart and mind, but in chemistry as well. Then there's the pancreas, the quiet manager of nourishment. It releases insulin, a small, elegant molecule that helps usher sugar, the energy from your meals, into your cells. Without insulin's gentle touch, the fuel of life would remain stranded in your bloodstream out of reach. It's one of the simplest examples of cooperation in your inner world. You eat, the pancreas responds, your cells receive their share, and the cycle of energy continues without a single thought from you. Deeper still, other glands write different kinds of letters. The pineal gland, a tiny structure near the center of your brain, releases melatonin, the body's moonlight. As the sun sets and the light around you dims, your eyes tell the brain it's time to prepare for rest. In response, melatonin begins to rise, whispering through your bloodstream. The world is getting quiet now. Slow down. It doesn't force sleep. It simply opens the door for it. You feel your temperature drop slightly, your breath deepen, your mind soften. The inner tides shift from day to night. The adrenal glands, having guided you through the stress of daylight, now rest as melatonin takes over. Their twin messengers, adrenaline and cortisol, retreat like waves after a storm. This exchange is one of the most beautiful parts of being alive. the handover between light and dark, effort and ease. Scientists call it circadian rhythm. You might call it the music of the day turning into the lullaby of night. It's not a switch, but a tide, one that moves gently, reminding your body that it belongs to the same cycles as the earth: sunrise, sunset, ebb and flow. And then there is oxytocin, sometimes called the molecule of trust. Unlike the hormones that travel far and wide, oxytocin works close to the heart. It is released when you hold someone you love, when you pet a dog, when you listen to someone's voice and feel safe. It softens the heartbeat, lowers tension, and opens the mind to connection. It's chemistry turned tenderness, proof that the body understands affection as deeply as it understands hunger or sleep. When people say they can feel love, they are not speaking metaphorically. They are describing oxytocin's gentle fingerprints spreading through the bloodstream. There are other messengers too. The sex hormones that give shape and tone to the body's transitions. Estrogen and progesterone in women, testosterone in men. But in truth, both exist in everyone, simply in different balances. They influence far more than reproduction. They shape mood, bone strength, muscle growth, even the luster of your hair. Their ebb and flow create the changing landscape of adolescence, adulthood, and age. Like the moon, they rise and fall through cycles, reminding you that change is not failure. It's the body's way of staying in motion. All of these hormones, from the high alert flashes of adrenaline to the quiet lull of melatonin, are constantly adjusting, negotiating, listening. Together they form the whisper network that keeps you in tune with yourself. You can think of it as a soft current running beneath consciousness, a stream of invisible messages ensuring that everything you do, breathe, rest, digest, love, happens at the right time. Even now, as you lie still, these chemical couriers are on the move. The balance of the night is underway. Melatonin hums through your bloodstream. Oxytocin, perhaps from a recent moment of warmth or affection, lingers softly. Cortisol has ebbed, leaving calm in its wake. The orchestra of glands is playing its nighttime song, perfectly synchronized to the hush of darkness. If you've ever wondered how your body knows when to wake, when to eat, when to dream, this is the answer. It listens to its own inner tides, to the chemical moonlight that guides its oceans. Even the stars above seem to echo this rhythm. Light and dark, action and rest, contraction and release. You might fall asleep soon, and if you do, your body will keep listening. Every heartbeat, every breath, every drop of blood will carry messages between the cells, keeping the entire symphony in tune. You don't have to ask for it or think about it. The conversation continues in your absence. Even your hormones, those invisible writers of time, rest in rhythm with the stars. As the tide of chemistry fades into stillness, our story begins to turn once more toward movement, to the silent rivers that carry all these messages, cells and sparks through you. The path now carries us to the heart's domain, to the flowing rhythm of the blood itself, the river that never sleeps. From the hush of chemical messages, our journey now follows their path, into the river that carries every whisper, every spark, every nutrient through you. It's the bloodstream, a living current that never stops moving, flowing through 60,000 miles of hidden channels. That's long enough to circle the earth more than twice, all within the span of your body. Through these winding rivers, your cells are fed, your brain is sustained, and your heart keeps time like the steady drumbeat of an ancient song. You might imagine this inner world as a vast landscape of water and light. Arteries branch like sunlit highways, carrying fresh, oxygen-rich blood away from the heart, while veins return it, deep and dark, filled with stories of work completed and waste to be washed away. At the centre sits the heart itself, not just a pump, but a patient drummer, beating 100,000 times a day without ever needing rest. It's smaller than your fist, yet it moves the ocean within you, again and again, year after year. Each beat begins as a tiny spark inside the heart's own natural rhythm center, a cluster of cells that send electrical pulses, faint and precise, rippling through the muscular walls. Those ripples contract the chambers in a perfect sequence, sending waves of red life outward. If you could shrink down and watch from inside, you'd see blood cells swirling past like glowing embers, travelling swiftly through tunnels that twist and divide into thinner and thinner streams until they become almost invisible. At their finest, these vessels are thinner than a strand of hair, and yet through them life flows. Oxygen in, carbon dioxide out, nutrients exchanged for waste, a dance of constant renewal. The blood itself is more than a fluid. It's a community of travellers, each with a purpose. The red blood cells are the couriers, carrying oxygen from your lungs to every tissue, every organ, every waiting cell. Each red cell is shaped like a small, flexible disc, perfect for slipping through even the narrowest passageways. Inside, a special iron-rich protein called hemoglobin holds the oxygen tightly, releasing it only when it's needed most. You could think of these cells as tiny delivery boats, their decks piled high with air sailing ceaselessly through the channels of your veins. Then there are the white blood cells, the guardians of your internal peace. You met them earlier as part of your immune army. They drift among the couriers, scanning for signs of trouble, always ready to defend, repair, or heal. When danger passes, they return quietly to their patrols, like sentinels on a calm night, and among them the platelets, small, disc-shaped fragments. Wait for their signal. When an injury appears, they rush to the scene and weave themselves into a living bandage, sealing the wound before you even notice. Their coordination is perfect, their timing instant, and all of it happens without sound or thought. The fluid that carries them, plasma, is a golden ocean, more than 90% water. It holds not only cells, but also hormones, nutrients, salts, and tiny proteins that keep your blood balanced and smooth. It's the great connector of your inner world, linking one organ's work to another's. When the thyroid sends a hormone, plasma carries it. When the pancreas releases insulin, plasma delivers it to every cell that needs it. When oxygen fills your lungs, plasma is there to ferry it outward. Every drop of it is alive with movement, with purpose, with quiet intelligence. And though you may never feel it, the flow of blood shapes your warmth, your rhythm, your presence. When you blush, it's blood rushing to the skin, colouring your face with emotion. When you shiver, the vessels constrict, keeping heat close to the core. When you stretch in the sun, they widen again, releasing warmth back to the air. It's an ancient reflex, a silent dance between body and world, adjusting moment by moment to keep you steady. Blood has its own cycles of life and death too. Red blood cells live for about 4 months before retiring, drifting to the spleen, that quiet organ beneath your ribs, where they're gently taken apart and their materials recycled. Every second, about 2 million new red cells are born in the marrow of your bones, ready to take their place. It's a process so constant that you never notice it, yet it means you carry a new river within you every few months. You are, quite literally, a work of constant renewal. The chemistry of blood is both complex and beautiful. Its slightly salty taste, its bright red glow in oxygen, its darker hue in the veins, all are reflections of its molecular ballet. When oxygen binds to the iron in hemoglobin, the blood turns a rich bright red, like sunrise through glass. When it releases that oxygen, it darkens to a deeper shade, like twilight. Even colour becomes communication, a coded message of where energy has been given and where it is needed next. Your blood also carries the signature of your inheritance, the patterns of sugars and proteins that mark your cells as your own. These are your blood types, tiny badges that identify your river to the immune system. Whether your blood is type A, B, AB, or O, whether it carries a small extra marker known as the Rh factor or not, makes no difference to how it loves or heals. These are simply the dialects of biology, variations in the universal language of life. In ancient cultures, blood was thought to hold the soul, the essence of life itself. And in a way, they weren't wrong. It carries not just oxygen and nutrients, but warmth and intention. The rhythm of your heart turned into motion. When your pulse quickens with excitement or slows in peace, when it surges in courage or steadies in sorrow, it is the bloodstream that translates emotion into flesh. The poet's metaphor of blood as passion has always been true in its own quiet science. Even now as you rest, the river flows on. Your heart continues to send its steady waves through the body, through your brain, through your fingertips, through every sleeping cell. The sound of that rhythm is faint, but if you place a hand against your chest, you can feel it. The drum of continuity, the reminder that you are still here. Each pulse carries with it warmth, nourishment, and the subtle promise of another moment. And as the river moves, it connects every part of you, from the hidden machinery of the cells to the spark of the mind, from the whisper of hormones to the silence of dreams. It's the thread that ties all stories together, the proof that nothing inside you is separate from anything else. If we drift along that current just a little farther, it carries us down to the smallest scale of all, the molecular script that writes every detail of who you are. Deep within each nucleus, hidden in the spiraling folds of DNA, lies the pattern that guides every heartbeat, every cell division, every spark of life. The trail now leads us gently toward that most delicate and enduring text, the story written in silence, your genetic code. If we follow the thread of life deeper, past the whispering hormones and down into motion itself, we find a sound you've known since before you were born. It's the faint, steady rhythm of the heart, the first music your body ever played. Every beat sends a wave of warmth through you, pushing blood through 60,000 miles of hidden rivers and streams. This is the river that never sleeps, the quiet current that carries life to every shore inside you. You might imagine your heart as a conductor standing before an unseen orchestra. With each beat, it raises its baton, and the entire body responds. Arteries, veins, and capillaries sway in rhythm. Cells listen for their cue. During the day, the tempo rises, bright, quick, alert. At night, the pace softens, slowing into a gentle lullaby. The body doesn't stop working, but it hums in a lower key, a melody meant for healing. The blood itself is not just a liquid, it's a living community, a collaboration in motion. 4 key players travel through this crimson sea, each performing a task so practiced it seems effortless. First come the red blood cells, the oxygen couriers. There are trillions of them, round and flexible, gliding smoothly through every vessel. Inside each one lives a molecule of iron that binds to oxygen from your lungs, holding it gently until it reaches the tissues that need it most. You could think of them as tiny boats, each carrying a breath of air through the bloodstream. They deliver their cargo, pick up carbon dioxide, the soft sighs of used breath, and ferry it back to the lungs to be released. They do this again and again, about once every minute, never missing their route. Among these couriers drift the white blood cells, the watchmen. They're larger, fewer, and infinitely vigilant. They patrol the bloodstream quietly, looking for signs of injury or infection. When they sense trouble, they move swiftly, changing shape, slipping through vessel walls to reach the wounded spot. There they coordinate defences, clear debris and repair damage, all without complaint. Their work is invisible, but without it, life would last only a few fragile hours. Scattered among them are the platelets, the first aid artists. When a vessel tears, they're the first to arrive, gathering at the site like painters mending a torn canvas. They stick together, forming a delicate patch that seals the wound. Then they call for reinforcements, summoning threads of protein that weave across the break until it's whole again. The moment danger passes, they fade quietly back into the flow, letting the river run clear once more. The fourth traveller is the plasma, the golden ocean that carries everything else. Mostly water, but also rich with salts, nutrients and proteins, plasma keeps the blood fluid and balanced. It ferries hormones, vitamins and heat, linking distant organs in an endless circuit of exchange. You might think of it as the conversation between your organs, the way your heart speaks to your brain, your liver to your muscles, your skin to your bones. Each wave of plasma is a sentence in that ongoing dialogue of life. All of this happens beneath your awareness. You don't tell your heart to beat, or your blood to flow, or your vessels to open and close with each breath. It's an old, automatic intelligence, a choreography written into your body long before your first memory. Even as you lie still now, that dance continues. Blood leaves your heart bright with oxygen, travels through the arteries, and returns through the veins, darkened and calm. The entire trip takes less than a minute, a complete circuit from beginning to end, repeated thousands of times each hour. If you were to shrink down and drift through these waterways, you'd see a landscape of wonder. Arteries would appear like golden tunnels, their walls pulsing gently with every beat. Veins would feel cooler, more relaxed, carrying blood back toward the heart in a smooth, continuous tide. At the smallest scale, the capillaries, you'd glide through corridors so narrow that red blood cells must pass single file, bending and twisting like dancers through a narrow hallway. There, exchange happens. Oxygen delivered, carbon dioxide collected, nutrients shared. It's commerce and compassion rolled into one. A market of life where everyone leaves with exactly what they need. The warmth you feel in your skin, the faint blush in your cheeks, the comfort of lying under a blanket. All of it comes from this river. When you're cold, the vessels near the surface tighten, drawing heat inward to protect your core. When you're warm or relaxed, they widen, letting warmth flow outward, radiating gently through the skin like the first light of dawn. It's the body's way of balancing. Never too hot, never too cold, always searching for the perfect middle ground where life feels at ease. Inside this rhythm, there is no real pause. The heart doesn't sleep, it simply changes its song. At night, when you rest, your pulse slows and the blood moves more gently through the veins. The arteries soften, pressure eases, and your entire body settles into a state of peace. The heart's beat, slower now, sounds like waves on a shore, steady, patient, eternal. It's your body's lullaby, composed of movements so quiet, you forget it's even happening. Every culture in history has compared blood to life itself, and in a way they were right. It's not just a metaphor. The blood carries oxygen, nutrients and warmth, but it also carries time. Each beat marks another instant in the story of your body, another moment you've been alive. When people speak of the pulse of life, it isn't poetry, it's physics, translated into feeling. Even now, as you listen, that pulse continues. You may feel it in your chest, in your wrist, or deep in your throat. Each throb is a promise that the ancient rhythm still holds, that the river still runs. While your mind drifts towards sleep, your blood is still working, delivering tiny gifts of oxygen to every cell, carrying away the tired remnants of the day. It's a partnership that began long before you were aware, and will continue long after this night fades. And perhaps that's the quiet miracle. The idea that within you, movement never ceases. The heart beats, the blood flows, the cells breathe. Even in your stillness there is motion. Even in silence there is sound. Life is never absent. It simply shifts into gentler rhythms. As the night deepens, the river slows to its softest current. The warmth it carries spreads through you like liquid peace. Somewhere deep within, the heart keeps its steady count, not demanding attention, but simply existing, faithful, calm, ancient. If we follow this current all the way to its source, it leads us beyond the visible, beyond the rhythm of heartbeat and breath, down to the molecular text written within each cell, the story of who you are, recorded in every nucleus. The river's flow carries us toward the library of life itself, where your DNA, the quiet script of existence, waits patiently to be read. If we follow the river inward to its most secret depths, we find that every drop, every cell carried along by the current holds a copy of something extraordinary, the instructions for being you. It's not carved in stone nor written on paper. It exists in a quiet, spiraling thread of chemistry so elegant that it holds within its shape the power to build a heartbeat, a thought, or the colour of a single eyelash. This is your DNA, the living manuscript of your existence, written in a language older than language itself. You could imagine it as a spiral staircase rising endlessly through the dim interior of the cell. Each step is a pair of molecules joined together like clasped hands, holding the structure steady. Scientists once named these molecules with single letters, but we'll think of them more gently tonight as 4 tiny musical notes, repeating in countless patterns to compose the song of life. Every cell hums its own variation of this melody, and together they create the harmony that is you. Within that double spiral lies the entire archive of your biology, 23 chapters known as chromosomes, each one filled with thousands of sentences called genes. Every gene is an instruction, a suggestion, a possibility. Some tell the cells how to build the proteins that carry oxygen through your blood, while others describe the enzymes that digest your food, or the pigments that colour your eyes. You could think of the genome, your complete set of DNA, as a vast cookbook. Every recipe has been passed down through generations, refined by time, copied again and again with astonishing care. And within each cell, millions of tiny chefs follow these recipes without question, blending molecules, folding proteins, baking life itself in silence. When a cell needs to make something, it opens the page it requires and reads it aloud, not with a voice, but through chemistry. The information is copied into a smaller, lighter form, a strand of messenger material that carries the instructions to the cell's kitchens. There, in the endoplasmic reticulum and the ribosomes you met before, these messages are translated into proteins, the building blocks and tools of every structure and process inside you. They're the workers, the scaffolds, the instruments. One might help your muscles contract. Another might allow a neuron to pass an electrical spark. Another, a small enzyme, might fold and refold other proteins into perfect shapes. It's a kind of cellular theatre where the script never ends and every performer knows its lines. But this grand script is not rigid. DNA is potential, not destiny. The environment, the food you eat, the air you breathe, the people you love, the thoughts you dwell on, all of these experiences add small notes in the margins of your story. This is what scientists call epigenetics, the way life edits its own text in response to the world around it. These edits don't erase the original words, but they can highlight or dim them, choosing which instructions to read more loudly and which to whisper. It's as if your cells hold pencils, constantly underlining, circling, and annotating the music of your genome in response to the rhythms of your life. Even sleep leaves its mark. When you rest, your body repairs tiny breaks in the DNA, nicks caused by sunlight, stress, or the simple friction of living. Specialized enzymes move along the spiral like careful proofreaders, checking for errors, fixing misplaced notes, and restoring the melody to its original form. The process is delicate and constant, happening billions of times each night without your awareness. You could say that while you dream, your body is quietly editing its own story, making sure the text remains true. And sometimes the script changes in ways that create something entirely new. Small mutations, a word altered here, a line skipped there, can be harmless, harmful, or transformative. They are the seeds of evolution, the random sparks from which diversity arises. Every creature on Earth, from the simplest microbe to the most complex mammal, owes its existence to these creative misprints. Without them, life would never have learned to adapt, to grow, or to survive. In that sense, even imperfection has its purpose. It's humbling to think that within you, in each of your trillions of cells, the same script is being read in harmony. Every drop of blood, every strand of hair, every flake of skin carries the same code, the same promise of life. Yet not every cell reads every page. A neuron reads only what it needs to become a neuron. A muscle cell reads what it must to contract and relax. A liver cell reads the recipes for cleansing and metabolism. The rest of the library remains closed, waiting for a time or condition when those words might be needed again. It's the ultimate economy of expression. All the information in the world, used only where it's useful. The DNA molecule itself is astonishingly long. If you could stretch the DNA from a single cell into a straight line, it would reach almost 2 meters. Yet all of it is packed into a nucleus so small you'd need a microscope to see it. Now imagine that multiplied by every cell in your body. If all of your DNA were placed end to end, it could stretch from the Earth to the Sun and back hundreds of times. And still, it works silently, gracefully, with hardly an error. There's a quiet poetry in knowing that everything you are, your height, your voice, the curve of your smile, was written with the same alphabet that writes the scent of rain, the shimmer of fish scales, and the blooming of a sunflower. The language of life is universal. It binds you not only to your parents or ancestors, but to every living thing that has ever existed. Somewhere in that spiral, echoes of ancient creatures still hum faintly, distant relatives whose lines you carry forward simply by breathing. Right now, as you lie still, that language is being spoken in every corner of you. New cells are being written, old ones are being revised. The ink of life never dries. Your DNA is not a monument but a manuscript, rewritten daily by your body's quiet editors: sleep, time, experience, and care. So tonight, as you drift between wakefulness and dreams, you can imagine those spirals gently turning in the dark, like slow galaxies of information, each one glowing faintly with the story of your being. You don't need to understand the code to appreciate the song. Just knowing it plays within you is enough. If we listen closely to that song, we begin to hear how each part of you, the blood, the cells, the mind, the hormones, even the microbes that call you home, are not separate stories, but verses in one grand composition. As we follow this melody, it begins to swell into harmony, drawing everything together into a single, continuous piece, the nightly orchestra of your inner world. If we listen closely to the quiet song written in your cells, we begin to realize something remarkable, that no part of you ever works alone. Every organ, every system, every microscopic citizen of your body is constantly speaking in its own dialect, yet somehow they all understand one another. It's not a noisy conversation, it's more like a low, steady hum, a network of harmony that carries on beneath thought, beneath awareness, beneath even sleep itself. The body is a living collaboration, a web of messages sent through countless channels. The nervous system speaks in sparks. The endocrine system sends its words through chemicals. The immune system communicates through touch and recognition. Even the microbes in your gut, those invisible neighbours who outnumber your own cells, join the dialogue through molecules that influence mood and mind. You are, in every sense, a chorus of quiet intelligence, a community learning how to be one being. Think of breathing, for instance. It feels like a simple act. In, out, repeat. But beneath that rhythm, the lungs and brain are constantly negotiating. Sensors in your bloodstream measure how much oxygen you've taken in and how much carbon dioxide needs to leave. They send this data to your brain stem, which adjusts the pace automatically. Quicker when you climb stairs, slower when you lie down. You never have to decide how much air you need. The body already knows. That same principle unfolds everywhere. Your heart, guided by the brain but also independent of it, speeds up or slows down according to signals from hormones, temperature, and even emotion. When you feel love, adrenaline, fear, or peace, your heart understands, long before your thoughts can translate the feeling into words. It listens to chemical cues, electrical whispers, and mechanical rhythms all at once, adjusting without hesitation. Your digestive system listens too. The gut isn't just a tube for processing food. It's an ecosystem with its own nervous network, often called the second brain. When you eat, microbes begin their work immediately, breaking down complex molecules into nutrients your body can use. In return, your gut produces messengers that travel to the brain, influencing mood and appetite. Serotonin, the molecule of calm and contentment, is mostly made here, not in your mind. So when people say, trust your gut, they're not entirely speaking in metaphor. It's real communication, a deep conversation between body and mind through chemistry instead of words. The immune system is another member of this network. It pays close attention to your sleep, your stress, your nourishment. When you rest deeply, certain immune cells patrol the body more efficiently. When you're anxious or overtired, their rhythm falters. Even light plays a role. Daylight helps your body distinguish between activity and recovery. White blood cells, those tireless watchmen, respond to these signals, adapting their behavior to the cycles of day and night. You could say they're guided by sunlight and starlight both, the outer world shaping the inner one, and somewhere deep inside each cell, mitochondria, those ancient engines of energy, hum in response to it all. They generate the power that keeps the rest of the orchestra playing, and in return they rely on oxygen, nutrients, and hormonal timing to keep their rhythms smooth. When you move, they multiply. When you rest, they repair. Though they are microscopic, their influence reaches every heartbeat, every breath, every spark of thought. Everywhere you look within, there is connection. When you think, hormones shift. When you eat, the brain changes. When you rest, the immune system strengthens. When you feel joy or gratitude, blood pressure softens, digestion deepens, muscles loosen. Nothing happens in isolation. Each action sends ripples through the entire system, ripples that may fade quickly or echo for days. You might picture it all as a vast network of glowing threads, stretching through your body like constellations of light. Each thread represents a signal, a burst of chemistry, a spark of electricity, a shift in temperature, a pulse of pressure. These threads weave through you, connecting organs to tissues, tissues to cells, cells to molecules. The pattern is always changing, never still, like an aurora made of thought and breath and heartbeat. Even sleep, which feels like the absence of activity, is part of this harmony. It isn't just a pause, it's a performance of repair. The brain slows its chatter, the heart lowers its tempo, and the body begins its nightly symphony of recovery. Hormones release in rhythm. Melatonin darkens the stage. Growth hormone repairs the set. Immune cells sweep the aisles. The whole body becomes an orchestra tuning itself under moonlight. It's easy to imagine that all this coordination requires control, that some central authority must be giving orders, but there isn't one. The miracle lies in decentralization. Each cell listens and responds to its surroundings, just as musicians in an ensemble adjust to each other without needing a conductor. Order emerges not from command, but from cooperation. That's what makes you so resilient. The intelligence isn't trapped in one place, it's everywhere. During the day, this network hums like a busy city, alive, multitasking, adapting to the flow of light, movement, and emotion. But as night falls, it transforms. The pace slows. The conversation shifts from action to restoration. The gut sends fewer hunger signals. The heart moves in softer waves. Hormones whisper instead of shout. Even your thoughts begin to move differently, drifting, instead of charging forward. The symphony continues, but in a lower register, slower, deeper, quieter. In that quiet, the systems exchange gratitude. The mitochondria slow their engines and check for damage. The immune system, now less distracted by daylight tasks, sweeps through the tissues like caretakers cleaning a theatre after a show. The liver begins its steady detox, filtering out the day's waste. The brain prepares to wash itself clean, a process that will unfold in the sessions ahead. All these movements are timed not by clocks, but by rhythm, the shared intuition of a body that has practiced this routine every night of your life. You don't need to command any of it. You don't need to remind your lungs to breathe or your heart to beat or your cells to repair. This network already knows. It has known for millions of years, since the first spark of life learned how to turn energy into motion and motion into meaning. So as you rest tonight, you can trust that even your stillness is intelligent. Within the silence of your body, thousands of systems are speaking to one another, exchanging information, coordinating balance, composing the nightly song that keeps you alive. And if you could hear that song, it would sound like a steady heartbeat, a gentle pulse of blood, a breath that never forgets its rhythm. If we follow that breath a little further, it leads us into the deeper currents of night itself, the time when stillness works hardest, when your mind and body enter their most mysterious harmony of all. As the inner orchestra settles into its nocturne, a softer movement begins, one that only the night can play. The outside world grows quiet, but within you, the tempo merely changes. Your body, it turns out, works hardest when you appear to be doing nothing at all. Sleep is often described as rest, but that's only part of the story. Rest is the curtain that falls. Sleep is what happens behind it. In that hidden space, thousands of processes awaken. A whole city of quiet labourers stepping onto the stage once the noise of daylight fades. While you drift into dreams, your cells begin the night shift. In your brain, this work begins with a tide. During the day, your neurons fire constantly, building thoughts, storing memories, and managing everything you see, feel, and decide. All that activity leaves traces, metabolic debris, the tiny byproducts of thinking. At night, as consciousness drifts away, a special network of channels opens between the brain cells. Clear fluid begins to flow, washing through the tissue like a gentle ocean current. It collects the waste and carries it out through pathways that reach the bloodstream. Scientists call it the glymphatic system, but you could think of it more simply, a nightly tide washing the shore of thought. This tide rolls in and out while you sleep, cleansing the brain, clearing the fog that might have gathered through the day. It's why a good night's sleep makes everything feel sharper, calmer, more possible. Your mind is literally refreshed, its circuitry rinsed and renewed. Even the neurons themselves participate. Some shrink slightly during deep sleep to make room for the cleansing flow, then expand again by morning. It's a beautiful cooperation between structure and silence, between stillness and purpose. Elsewhere, other kinds of repair begin. The mitochondria, those tiny engines of energy inside each cell, finally have their chance to rest and mend. After a day of producing energy, they take the night to clean house, repairing small damages caused by constant use. They replace worn parts, reset their inner chemistry, and prepare for the next day's surge of activity. It's like a fleet of engines in a ship, all shutting down one by one for maintenance, so that none ever fails when the voyage resumes. In your bloodstream, immune cells begin their rounds. Some patrol for intruders, others gather broken cells for recycling. A few release gentle waves of inflammation, not as alarm, but as part of the body's nightly cleanup. Tiny clots dissolve, tissues heal, microtears in muscles are stitched back together by threads of protein. The immune system is an artist as much as a soldier, painting restoration into the canvas of your body. Your skin also takes this time to renew. Deeper layers push up fresh cells to replace the ones shed during the day. Collagen fibers are woven more tightly, wounds close a little further, and the skin microbiome, those millions of quiet allies living on your surface, balances itself again. The warmth of sleep, the lowered stress, and the slower breathing all create the perfect climate for healing. Meanwhile, your liver, the body's tireless filter, hums softly through its nocturnal duties. It breaks down leftover hormones, neutralizes toxins, and redistributes nutrients to where they're needed. The gut slows its movement but doesn't stop. Microbes continue to ferment, feeding on the fibers you've eaten, releasing short-chain molecules that help regulate inflammation and feed the cells of your colon. Even the digestive system dreams in its own way, quietly adjusting, sorting, preparing for the next dawn. Inside your bones, the marrow works like a factory at night, producing new blood cells to replace the old. Red cells, white cells, and platelets are born in the silence, ready to join the river of circulation when morning comes. Every few seconds, thousands emerge, small translucent symbols of continuity. It's a process so seamless you never feel it, yet it sustains everything. The heart, too, rests, but never truly stops. Its rhythm slows to match the lowered demands of the sleeping body, but the beat remains steady, like a drummer who's dimmed the volume without missing a note. Blood flows more slowly now, allowing deeper exchange in the capillaries, giving every tissue time to breathe, to release, to renew. Your pulse, if you could hear it, would sound less like a march and more like the slow roll of distant waves. And beneath it all, your DNA continues its quiet proofreading. As the cells rest, small enzymes glide along the spiraled ladders of genetic material, checking for misplaced links, repairing them before they cause trouble. This is one of life's most elegant rituals, the rewriting of existence in the dark. Tiny molecular editors move line by line, ensuring that the story stays coherent, that tomorrow's cells will remember who they are. It's almost poetic, isn't it? That the moment you surrender control is the moment your body does its best work. When your mind stops trying, the deeper wisdom takes over. You don't have to remind your heart to beat, your lungs to rise and fall, your cells to heal. They already know. They have known since long before you learned what the word sleep even meant. Even your dreams are part of this orchestration. They're not random. They're the mind's way of sorting, rehearsing, and releasing. Fragments of memory drift through your awareness, stitched together into stories that don't always make sense but always serve a purpose. The emotional centers of your brain light up, testing new connections, softening the edges of fear, amplifying feelings of safety and belonging. Dreams are the brain's form of emotional housekeeping, the final sweep of the broom before dawn. All of this happens without your help. You could say that sleep is the body's most profound expression of trust. To close your eyes is to hand the night back to your biology, to let evolution itself take the reins for a few hours. You don't need to earn this rest. You don't need to perfect it. The body already knows the choreography by heart, and so, as the orchestra of your inner world plays its quiet midnight symphony, the brain's tide washing gently, the heart's rhythm soft and slow, the cells whispering as they repair, the night becomes an act of grace. You're not falling apart in the dark. You are being reassembled. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every flicker of electricity in your brain is part of this grand rehearsal for morning. By the time dawn begins to glow at the edges of your sleep, you'll already be renewed. The tides will have receded, the engines cleaned, the scripts proofread, the cells restored. You'll awaken not as the same person who went to bed, but as a slightly newer version, quietly remade by the wisdom of the night. If we follow this rhythm toward morning, the science begins to soften into something more philosophical. What does it mean, after all, to be a collection of smaller lives, each one working together toward your continued existence? The body, it seems, is not a single creature but a society, an ecosystem of cooperation, patience and trust. And that realization leads us gently toward our next reflection, the ecology of being you. If we step back and listen to everything your body has been doing, the tides washing, the heart-keeping rhythm, the cells whispering their instructions in the dark, it becomes clear that you are not one single thing. You're an ecosystem, a living landscape, a community of small, persistent lives working together so seamlessly that they appear as one. You can think of yourself as a planet wrapped in skin, warm, full of oceans, mountains, forests, and weather patterns that rise and fall inside you every day. Your organs are its continents, your blood its rivers, your breath its atmosphere. The trillions of cells within you are its citizens, each one with its own duty, yet all bound to a common peace, your continued existence. Even the tiny microbes that share your body, the ones that outnumber your human cells, are part of this pact. They digest, protect, signal, and balance. In their world, you're both environment and universe. There is no border here between the self and the world. The food you eat becomes part of you. The air you breathe becomes your blood. The sunlight touching your skin shapes the rhythm of your sleep and the chemistry of your mind. Life passes through you as if you're both gateway and garden, both host and guest. The boundary between you and everything else is softer than it seems, more like the edge of a cloud than the edge of a wall. Inside this garden, cooperation is the rule, not competition. Cells share nutrients, organs lend support, even the bacteria that live in your gut have treaties with your immune system. When one system falters, others step forward to balance it. When the body grows tired, the mind slows down to protect it. When the heart races, the lungs adapt. There's no dictatorship here, only dialogue. Life, at its core, is an agreement among countless voices to keep singing the same song. That song is not random. It's tuned to the frequencies of your world. When dawn rises, light enters your eyes and signals your brain to awaken. Hormones stir, cells open their channels, blood quickens its flow. When dusk falls, the light fades, and your chemistry turns inward again. Melatonin, the messenger of moonlight, begins to rise. The pulse slows. The orchestral sections shift from performance to rest. Even your gut microbes feel this rhythm, adjusting their activity with the rotation of the Earth. Every part of you dances to the same planetary waltz, whether you notice it or not. And in that dance, there is wisdom, a wisdom older than any conscious thought. You are not taught to breathe, yet you do. You never had to study how to heal a cut, yet your body closes it with precision. The cooperation within you is effortless because it's not invented, it's inherited. It's the gift of billions of years of practice, life remembering itself through you. If you could see it from afar, if your body were transparent and lit from within, you might see it as a web of light, the gut glowing faintly with microbial constellations, the neurons in your brain flickering like fireflies across a meadow of thought, the heart pulsing in the center, sending ripples of light outward through rivers of blood, each pulse syncing with the tiny electric flashes of muscle and nerve, like stars communicating across distance. you'd see not chaos, but choreography. Every part moving because another part moved first, an endless chain of cause and response, the dance of existence itself. And here's something tender to remember. This network doesn't stop at your skin. Your body's electromagnetic field, faint but real, extends outward, touching the world. When two people stand close, their hearts subtly influence each other's rhythms. When you hold someone's hand, your body temperature shifts to match theirs. Even your breathing synchronizes with those you love or spend time with. It's as though your inner orchestra occasionally merges with others, forming temporary symphonies of shared calm or excitement. The borders blur again. You're not just an ecosystem. You are part of a wider ecology, of families, friends, forests, and skies. If you think of consciousness, the awareness that listens, wonders, and dreams as a voice, then it too belongs to this choir. The mind is not separate from the body, but an emergent melody woven from all its notes. The gut shapes thought, the breath shapes emotion, the heartbeat modulates attention. What you call you is the harmony that arises when trillions of small instruments play in tune. You are both the orchestra and the audience, and perhaps this is why moments of stillness feel sacred. When you sit quietly and breathe, you're not stopping the song, you're finally able to hear it. The body's natural hum reveals itself in the silence, the pulse behind the ribs, the slow expansion of the lungs, the faint vibration of life unfolding. Meditation, prayer, even the simple act of lying still, they all draw you back to that inner ecology, the living web that sustains you. Sometimes when people speak of inner peace, they imagine it as still water, calm, flat, untouched. But in truth, inner peace is more like a balanced ecosystem. It isn't silent, it's full of quiet activity, the lungs moving like tides, the heart keeping time, the cells exchanging messages, the microbes harvesting nourishment. It's harmony, not stillness, a perfect, continuous negotiation of life. So tonight, if you find yourself thinking that you are small, remember this: you are vast. You contain worlds. Every cell is its own living being. Every heartbeat echoes through a universe of motion and meaning. You're not a single story told by nature. You are the library that contains them all. And if you ever feel separate from others, from the world, from peace itself, you can return to this truth. The same atoms that once swam in ancient oceans now flow in your blood. The same sunlight that warmed prehistoric forests is stored in your cells. The same breath that filled your lungs tonight will one day nourish a tree. There is no real division between what is inside you and what surrounds you. You are a single, continuous field of connection, a living bridge between what was and what will be. As that thought settles, the next question rises gently on the horizon of the mind. If the universe inside you is so intricate and alive, what does it mean to be aware of it, to feel it, to understand it, to live inside it with gratitude? The answer isn't found in formulas or anatomy, it's found in poetry, the poetry of existence itself, where knowing and wonder become the same thing. If we follow the thread of that inner ecosystem, the quiet negotiations of breath and blood, the harmony between the seen and unseen, we arrive at something softer than science can measure. We arrive at wonder. Science gives us the vocabulary to describe life, but it is wonder that lets us feel it. And in that space between knowledge and awe lies something both ancient and personal, the poetry of existence. Think for a moment about how we've come here. We began our journey in the vastness of space, not out among the stars, but within, to explore the galaxies that exist inside you. We've watched cells behave like cities, blood flow like rivers, DNA unfurl like a manuscript, and neurons spark like constellations. These are the facts of biology, yes, but they are also metaphors that your body happens to make true. Every one of them is a poem written in chemistry, whispered in heartbeat and breath. Science often speaks in numbers and symbols, but beneath those notations lies something profoundly human: curiosity. The same curiosity that made you stare at the night sky as a child and wonder what was out there also draws you inward to ask what's inside. Both directions lead to the same place: mystery. And mystery is not the opposite of knowledge. It's the well from which knowledge is drawn. There's a reason scientists and poets often fall in love with the same things: the structure of a snowflake, the pulse of a star, the way time slows near the event horizon of a black hole, the way your heart slows when you finally exhale. One uses formulas to describe it, the other uses metaphors, but both are trying to say the same thing: that existence itself is a form of art. The universe doesn't just function, it performs. Inside your body, that performance never stops. The mitochondria that power your cells are the direct descendants of ancient bacteria that once floated freely in primeval seas. Your bones are shaped by minerals that were once mountain stone. Your blood carries traces of iron forged in the heart of long-dead stars. The calcium that hardens your teeth, the carbon that builds your muscles, the oxygen you breathe, all of it began elsewhere. Every part of you was once something else. Every element in your body has lived many lives before you, and will live many more after you're gone. You're a chapter in the story of matter, a verse in the long poem of transformation. When science tells you this, it gives you facts. When you feel it, it gives you peace, because it means that even when things fall apart, even when endings come, nothing is truly lost. It just changes form. The energy in your body will one day scatter into air, soil, and starlight, just as it once gathered here to become you. There's a strange comfort in that, the idea that impermanence is not failure but flow. And maybe that's what it means to live wisely, to see yourself as part of that flow, to let go of the need to hold everything still. Life doesn't stay perfect or constant, it ripples. Cells die and are replaced. Thoughts come and go. Even love changes its shape over time. But like the bloodstream or the ocean, these movements don't erase what came before, they carry it forward. Every experience you've had, every moment of joy or ache, becomes part of who you are, folded into the tissues, the chemistry, the memory. You're built not just of atoms, but of moments. Sometimes, when people look for meaning, they imagine it as something hidden, a secret code that needs to be deciphered. But maybe meaning isn't hidden at all. Maybe it's scattered across the surface of everything, waiting to be noticed. In the flicker of neurons when you recall a face, in the microscopic repair of a cell while you sleep, in the soft pulse of blood under your fingertips. Meaning isn't an answer to find, it's a rhythm to join. Even ignorance, when held gently, can be beautiful. There's something freeing in not knowing everything, in allowing some mysteries to remain unspoken. The universe doesn't need you to solve it. It only asks that you notice it, that you participate in its unfolding with a little bit of awe. Wonder is not the absence of understanding. It's the presence of humility, the willingness to say, I see how much I don't see, and it's still magnificent. You might notice too how this perspective softens the self. When you stop viewing your body as a machine to fix and start seeing it as a landscape to care for, everything changes. You become less at war with yourself. Fatigue becomes the wind through your internal forest. Emotion becomes weather, sometimes sunny, sometimes stormy, but always passing. Even pain can be understood this way, not as punishment, but as an urgent message, a thunderclap calling your attention to imbalance. So much of modern life urges you to dominate your body, to measure it, sculpt it, push it toward perfection. But nature never asks perfection of its creations, only participation. A tree doesn't apologize for bending toward the light. A river doesn't compare its pace to another stream. They simply flow as they must. Your body asks the same. It doesn't need to be flawless. It needs to be heard. Perhaps that's the real poetry of existence, that in every breath, every heartbeat, every cell dividing quietly beneath your skin, the universe is writing its own verses through you. You're not outside the story of nature. You're how nature tells this part of the story. The atoms in your fingertips were once dust in a galaxy billions of years old, and now they write, build, love, dream. When you speak kindly, that stardust learns compassion. When you rest, it learns peace. When you breathe, it remembers the first wind that moved across the ancient seas. So, as you lie here tonight, you don't need to chase understanding or reach for control. You only need to listen to the soft hum of your body's internal symphony, to the faint rhythm of blood in your wrists, to the gentle rise and fall of your breath. That sound is the proof that you belong, not just to this moment, but to everything. As this realization settles, the edges of thought begin to blur. Science fades into silence. Curiosity softens into calm. The mind, having explored the inner cosmos, now prepares to drift into the final stage of this journey, the place where biology becomes dream and consciousness begins to rest. Now, as all the lights of thought begin to dim, you stand at the threshold between knowing and simply being. The body, that patient storyteller, has carried you through the day's symphony, and now it begins its final movement, the lullaby of dreams. There's nothing you must do for this to happen. It's already unfolding quietly, like mist curling through a valley at night. As you drift towards sleep, something remarkable begins within you. The conscious mind, the part that organizes, plans, and narrates, loosens its grip. It doesn't vanish. It simply steps aside, like a teacher who knows the students can now continue on their own. In its place rises a gentler conductor, the dreaming brain. Freed from the need to make sense, it starts to play with images, emotions, and memories. It paints with the colours of experience rather than reason. Neurons that once worked in tidy circuits during the day now begin to wander, lighting up in unusual combinations. A childhood street might merge with a future you've never seen. The voice of a friend might come from a face you've never met. The laws of gravity and logic take a holiday. It's not chaos, it's creativity. The brain is recomposing its music, rearranging what it knows into something new. Deep inside this landscape, emotions find their balance. Fear softens, joy expands. Grief, which may have been waiting quietly all day, finds a way to move again, not as pain, but as a release. During certain stages of sleep, the parts of your brain that feel and those that remember work together, stitching emotion into understanding. It's a kind of nighttime therapy, guided by instinct rather than thought. The mind whispers to itself, "You are safe now. You can let go." And while all this happens, the body listens. Muscles relax one by one, like instruments setting down their bows after the final note. The heart slows to its gentlest rhythm, sending out waves of calm through the bloodstream. Your breathing deepens, steady and even, matching the pulse of the earth. In, out, as if you're syncing your body to the planet itself. If you could see your sleeping self from within, it would look like a landscape at twilight. The brain, a glowing city of flickering lights. The lungs, slow-moving tides. The bloodstream, a web of glowing rivers. The immune cells, lantern-bearers walking quiet patrols. The mitochondria, the tireless engines pulsing faintly like hearth fires in every home. And above it all, the dream, the northern lights of the mind shimmering silently across the horizon of your thoughts. In this state, the boundaries between body and soul grow thin. You're not fully awake, not fully gone. You hover in a world made of memory and possibility. Your mind takes the fragments of life, conversations, colours, sensations and hopes, and rearranges them into stories that exist only for a moment. They have no need to make sense, they only need to help you feel. Even the act of dreaming has purpose. It helps you remember what matters, discarding the clutter while preserving the essence. It lets your body practice for life's possibilities, rehearsing emotions, testing ideas, confronting fears. It's why a single dream can leave you calm, unsettled, inspired, or comforted. Each one is a message written in your own language of images and feelings, a gentle way your body checks in with your mind. And just as dreams arise naturally, so does the rhythm that guides them. Your sleep cycles through stages like ocean waves, light, deep, dreaming, and back again. In deep sleep, your body repairs itself. Tissues mend, hormones rebalance, energy is restored. In dreaming sleep, the brain takes over the work of meaning-making. Together they form a complete loop of renewal, repeated again and again through the night, like tides rising and falling beneath a silver moon. There is something deeply humbling about this design. You don't have to remember how to dream, or calculate when to breathe, or decide which muscle should relax next. It all happens on its own. Your body doesn't need permission to rest. It already knows the way home. The wisdom of sleep is written into your biology, into every creature that has ever lived. Even the smallest bird resting in a tree trusts this rhythm. Even the whale beneath the waves slows its heart in surrender to the same ancient pulse. If you've ever watched a sleeping child, you've seen this piece in its purest form, the unguarded trust, the perfect rhythm of breath and silence. That same innocence still lives in you. It's the part that doesn't worry, doesn't plan, doesn't regret. It only breathes, it only sleeps, it only exists. And as you rest, the universe around you continues its own slow rotation. The stars move across the sky, invisible behind clouds or glass, but still there, keeping their cosmic schedule. Somewhere in another time zone, someone else is falling asleep, breathing in sync with you for a few heartbeats before drifting apart again. Even in solitude, you are never alone in this rhythm. You're part of the world's collective sigh, a great inhalation, an exhalation shared by all living things. Perhaps this is what it means to dream, to be reminded that you belong, not just to your own story, but to every story unfolding around you, to know that the same physics that moves the planets also moves your blood, that the same darkness holding galaxies also holds your thoughts as they fade into sleep. So if your mind is still restless, you can let it wander a little longer. Picture the rivers of blood still flowing, the cells still humming, the neurons still glowing softly. Picture them slowing down, not stopping, never stopping, but settling into the rhythm of peace. Each heartbeat, each breath, each small motion is another note in your body's endless lullaby. You don't have to understand the meaning of your dreams. You only need to know that they're part of this symphony, the body's way of weaving your experience into belonging. And as your awareness fades into that space between thought and silence, your only task is to listen to what has been true since the beginning. You're safe. You are home. You are whole. If we follow that last heartbeat as it merges with sleep, we arrive at the quietest truth of all, that life continues even when consciousness rests. The orchestra keeps playing softly now, carrying you through the night toward a deeper stillness, a continuum of being that never really stops. And now we reach the final drift of this journey, the space where thought gives way to stillness, where the story of your body becomes the rhythm of rest. Everything you've heard, from the whispering of your cells to the tide of your bloodstream, has been leading here to this moment of quiet continuity. In the hush of night, all the worlds inside you continue to move. The blood still flows through its rivers, though the current is slower now, like a stream after rain. The lungs rise and fall, carrying the same invisible rhythm that moves the ocean's waves. Deep in your cells, The tiny powerhouses of life hum softly, releasing just enough energy to keep the orchestra in tune. You are resting, yes, but nothing inside you is truly still. The body never fully sleeps. It shifts its focus, like a caretaker moving through a dimly lit house, closing one door, opening another, checking on everything with patient devotion. In your brain, slow waves of electricity roll through like distant thunder, carrying dreams and repairs from one side to the other. In your heart, the beat continues its low, faithful cadence, spreading warmth to every corner. Your muscles rest but do not abandon their readiness. Your skin breathes. Your bones quietly grow stronger with each passing hour. Even in stillness, you are becoming. If you could listen to yourself at this very moment, really listen, you might hear the overlapping rhythms that form your existence. The faint rushing of blood, the whisper of lungs, the pulse that taps beneath your ribs, the soft crackle of neurons settling into silence. It would sound like rain on leaves, or the surf beneath a moonlit sky, and underneath it all something deeper, a vibration so constant it feels like peace. That is the hum of life itself, the background note to which everything else is tuned. You've been alive long enough to know that peace is rarely loud. It doesn't demand to be noticed. It's found in quiet persistence, in the way your cells rebuild every night without complaint, in the way your breath always finds its way back in, even after you've sighed it out. Peace is not the absence of movement, but the harmony of it. Right now, your body is at its most connected. Every system, heart, lungs, brain, gut, skin, moves in unison, guided by the same slow tempo. Your temperature adjusts, your heartbeat steadies, and your inner chemistry aligns with the soft pull of darkness. The boundary between mind and body fades, and you become one continuous landscape of rhythm and rest. There's something cosmic about that, isn't there? The same way the earth spins without asking for your attention, the same way the moon waxes and wanes without ever hurrying, your body follows its own celestial pattern. The heartbeat is your orbit, the breath your rotation, the dreams your stars forming and dissolving in the quiet sky of the mind. Even asleep, you are a universe, vast, ancient, alive with motion. If you've ever wondered where the line between the physical and the spiritual truly lies, you might find it here, in this half-waking state. Science can describe what happens, the neurons slowing, the blood pressure falling, the brain releasing its soothing chemicals, but there's something beyond description in the way it feels. It's a return, not to somewhere else, but to yourself, to the stillness beneath all movement, the silence beneath all thought. You're not a machine switching off for the night. You are a constellation of smaller lives, each continuing its work in quiet coordination. Every microbe, every cell, every thread of tissue contributes to your survival, but also to your story. They've been with you through every joy, every challenge, every breath since your first. And tonight, as you rest, they continue that story without needing direction. Proof that life carries you even when you stop carrying it. Perhaps this is why, in so many traditions, sleep has always been seen as a small rehearsal for eternity, a place where the self dissolves into something larger, kinder, quieter. Not an ending, but a pause. Not nothingness, but balance. When you close your eyes, you aren't vanishing. You're returning to the deeper current that has always been there, flowing beneath the noise of living. The mind will try, even now, to narrate this, to name what you feel, to hold on. That's its nature. You don't need to fight it. You can simply let its voice soften, like the echo of footsteps fading down a hallway. Behind that echo, the real silence waits, the kind that isn't empty, but full of motion, of warmth, of life continuing quietly on your behalf. as you drift farther into that silence, you may notice how the world itself begins to merge with you. The darkness outside the window feels like an extension of the space behind your eyelids. The air seems to breathe with you. Time stretches, softens, folds. The past and the future fade until all that remains is this single breath, slow, deep, and unhurried. You're not just one life. You're the sum of countless smaller ones woven together in harmony. You're the continuation of everything that came before and the seed of everything that will come after. The same atoms that once belonged to distant stars now rest inside your bones. The same light that once travelled through galaxies now reflects in the quiet pulse beneath your skin. You are both ancient and new, infinite and fleeting, local and universal, all at once. And so, we end as we began, with the gentle awareness that your body is not separate from the cosmos, but a mirror of it. You are made of its dust, moved by its rhythms, warmed by its light. Every heartbeat is a small echo of the universe expanding. Every breath a reminder that the cosmos itself is alive and breathing through you. As you prepare to let sleep take you fully, you can imagine all the tiny worlds inside you, the microbes, the cells, the organs, the molecules, continuing their delicate dance, keeping you safe, keeping you whole. You don't need to guide them. You don't even need to think of them. Just know they're there, turning quietly through the night like stars in miniature. And as you drift towards sleep, may those tiny worlds inside you keep turning peacefully all through the night. You are safe. You are home. You are part of everything, and everything is part of you. Sleep well, traveller of inner space.